Back in 1989, I was living in East Germany when the Berlin Wall fell. And they used to say that when the Berlin Wall falls, we'll have freedom, democracy, and the money will be spent that we're spending on weapons will be spent on raising the living standards of the people in the West and providing peace, freedom, and plenty for the whole of the world. They also, by the way, in confirmation of what Vladimir Putin said the other day, they did say in 1989, 1990, that NATO will not move 1 centimetre east of the German border. That's what they promised. And that was the basis upon which the Russians withdrew, or Soviets withdrew, from Eastern Europe. Now, at the time they said, in Eastern Europe, in China, in the Soviet Union, they don't have a free press. You can't demonstrate, you can't assemble, you can't move. And yet, every single aspect of what they condemned in the Soviet Union has now become reality in the Western world, but far worse than what they claim existed in those countries. Far worse. As technology allowed us to communicate in ever greater means, as we got more and more interconnected in the world, they began to fear that some of that information would leak out. And it did. Someone mentioned a minute ago the Yugoslav war. Information leaked out about the Yugoslav war, the Rambouillet Accord, the battle between France and America, and the bombing in Croatia carried out by on behalf of the United States of America, which escalated the war in Bosnia. Then they had lies in preparation for the Iraq war and the Afghan war. And information began to sneak out about that and spread to the population. Many people thought September the 11th and other events were orchestrated, at least partly, by the establishment. Now, I'm not going to take a position on that. The point is that the information was getting out and people were asking questions which went to the core of the way in which power and information dissemination was exercised. Then came Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Chris Riley with the Facebook saga and the manipulation of elections. All the while, we thought that the increasing information availability would empower people to gain control over their lives and increase the power of the people versus the state. But what happened after the Arab Spring was that the states began to utilize the entire infrastructure of information to consolidate it into the hands of a minuscule elite of billionaires and big tech corporations, who in conjunction with Big Pharma, with the military, with the government, with the intelligence agencies, took control of the information infrastructure of the entire planet. And woe betide anyone who challenged that control that they had. And that is where we're at now. Julian Assange is in prison as an example, and then what followed afterwards was they began to look at everyone. All of you at some stage or other have been fact-checked. All of you at some stage or other have been deleted or frozen for a period of time. But more importantly, every single human being on Earth is now under permanent surveillance by the intelligence agencies, run by big tech, in order to consolidate artificial intelligence as a mechanism to control every human being on Earth by robots and artificial intelligence and drones. And what they're doing in Israel or in Gaza against the people in Gaza is preparation for what they're prepared to do in Britain, in Europe and America against us, against all the people in the Western world, as well as the countries around the world who are usually dominated by imperial power. What they are doing to the people in Gaza, they will do to us. That is the point about why we need to struggle against that barbarity being carried out. Israel, where people now, there's some people here got up a stand. Some of them were arrested, many people here don't even know. They were arrested on the mass demonstrations of hundreds of thousands of people for selling books and handing out leaflets questioning the narrative we are given about Gaza, where Britain and America are supplying the weapons and means to slaughter the people while washing their hands every day and claiming they're for peace. But the people who are arrested for giving out leaflets, they weren't arrested for normal crimes. They were charged with terrorism. It is terrorism now, according to the establishment, to give out a leaflet. A bloody leaflet. I was a member of the National Union of Journalists until November the 5th, 2020. At the beginning, I believed the story about lockdowns and COVID and the rest of it. Then I began to question, is it really true, everything they're saying? Are they not lying about X, Y, and Z and B and whatever? Are they not lying about the big pharma interventions? Are they not lying about the vaccines? Are they not lying about the injuries? Are they not lying about the lockdowns? During the lockdowns, the biggest transfer of wealth from the poor of the world to the wealthy took place in 2 years. The greatest transfer of wealth in human history, from the poor to the rich. The greatest consolidation of power in history by big corporations, by big tech, by the states and governments and intelligence agencies. The biggest consolidation of power in the history of the world. But when I protested on the 5th of November, with my press card on display, saying I want to discuss and inform people what was going on. The police, just round the road here, the police bundled me to the floor, 30 of them dragged me to the police station, and that evening the NUJ members who were observing this wrote to the head of the NUJ and said, we observed one of our members being bundled to the floor and arrested for no crime, just for speaking about free speech. And I've been doing that for nearly 40 years at Speaker's Corner. The head of the NUJ, I requested my subject access request from the NUJ. The head of the NUJ conspired with the police authority to have me arrested and to have my press card seized from me, claiming that anyone who opposed the measures taken by the government was a far-right conspiracy theorist. The truth of the matter is, there's a lot of talk about conspiracy theories in the world today. The main conspiracy theories in the world you need to be concerned about is the conspiracies happening in here, the conspiracies happening in Downing Street, the conspiracies happening in Washington, the conspiracies happening in the mass media, the conspiracies between the ruling elite and the exercise of control over the world. Seize back power over your lives. Organize, combine, organize, educate, agitate, mobilize the people from below, get the young people on the streets, coordinate, combine, mobilize the world to overthrow the tyranny that they are moving towards today. Thanks very much.
Wow. That's a man who's practiced his speaking skills. Beautiful, thank you. And a powerful, powerful message. Since Heiko Khoo brought this up, I'm going to show to you something that you may not be able to see for very much longer.